tonight on the border.
It's beyond, a border crisis.
Our CBN News team brings the story home as the surge at the southern border worsens.
There's no question this is a difficult challenge.
And play ball.
Please remember to wear your mask.
As thousands start to crowd grandstands, the race is on between the virus and the vaccine. Plus,
Benjamin Netanyahu has a slightly higher chance of forming a government.
Israel's president picks embattled Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to put together a government. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Crisis on the southern border escalating by the day. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder. New polling tonight suggesting the majority of Americans disapprove of President Biden's handling of the border crisis and immigration. This coming as border agents struggle to keep up with the skyrocketing number of illegal crossings. CBN News senior Washington correspondent Tara Merchner is just back from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. Tara, good evening. What are people there telling you?
Well, Jenna, given the front row seat they have to all of this, many tell us they do not believe the Biden administration will stop the humanitarian or the national security crisis already out of control.
Beyond, a border crisis.
And Myra Flores believes many South Texas voters, Republican and Democrat, are furious about it.
We're talking about child trafficking, and we're seeing that the cartel and smugglers are making billions. And this is the same organization that is terrorizing also Mexico. This doesn't benefit anyone.
During our 8 days to the Rio Grande Valley, we caught a close-up glimpse of what's troubling so many here. Waves of migrants dropped on U.S. soil each day by the smugglers and drug cartels. They pay thousands of dollars for what they believe is their only chance of opportunity and survival. Latest data from Customs and Border Protection shows some 171,000 migrants in March, 5 times more than just a year ago. This as White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki again downplays the situation here. The latest when asked about the possibility of terrorists sneaking into the country.
Encounters of known and suspected terrorists are very uncommon.
As the administration plays defense, this new poll shows 40% of Americans disapprove of Biden's response, while just 24% approve. Detention facilities continue to overflow. At this one in Donna, the numbers reportedly expanded 6-fold in a matter of days.
Every facility we have along the southwest border is over capacity right now.
Other critics like Raul Cruz, who live along the river, blame President Biden for rolling back Trump immigration policies he insists were working.
They're getting processed and then released. It's not due to Border Patrol's fault. They're out there doing their job. It's due to the new Biden administration's policy, the 100-day no deportation that's going on.
Hours of paperwork for every migrant that comes through. As agents are being rushed to process it all, many migrants are being released without court dates that would have required them to face a judge. Jenna.
All right, Tara Mergener, thank you very much and great reporting. Well, to Minneapolis tonight, and new details on the murder trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin. Today we learned that back in 2016 and 2018, Chauvin, who's charged in the death of George Floyd, underwent training on how to defuse tense situations and use of force. Lieutenant Johnny Mercel, the use of force trainer for the Minneapolis Police Department and an instructor for that class, testified that officers are taught to use the lowest level of force required to gain compliance.
You train officers that restraint is a form of force, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You see Exhibit 17, and you see the defendant on top of a subject that you know to be George Floyd, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is this a use of force?
Yes, sir.
And in Maryland, tonight, 2 people are critically wounded, and the suspect who opened fire at an office park today is dead. The shooter, a 38-year-old Navy medic, fled to nearby Army base Fort Detrick, where he was shot and killed.
This is certainly not the way any of us expected our Tuesday to begin. I just want to send the city's wishes to the families of the victims in the hopes for quick recoveries.
Quick recoveries, indeed. Well, more and more Americans are getting their COVID-19 shots. The United States setting a new record of 4 million vaccines in a single day. This, though, as the CDC cautions Americans eager to return to normal, that a fourth wave of infections is on the horizon. For the latest on America's vaccination efforts, we turn to CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Abigail.
Well, Janet, President Joe Biden announced today that all Americans aged 16 or older will be eligible to receive the vaccine by April 19th. And he also says that people should not be discouraged by the new mutated strains of COVID.
The vaccines work on all of them. So the idea is, don't think that means you shouldn't get a vaccine. That increases the need to get one quickly.
While Vice President Kamala Harris toured a Chicago facility.
And we can see a light at the end of the tunnel.
And in Texas.
We're all for it. We're ready to go. We've been waiting a year for this.
A sellout crowd of 40,000 fans filled the Texas Rangers Stadium.
Please remember to wear your mask.
Some fans masked up, while others did not, with Americans anxious to return to normal.
The war against COVID-19 is far from over, far from won.
The administration says not so fast.
Do your part, wear a mask, socially distance, get vaccinated when it's your turn. Period.
The CDC blames highly transmissible variants for increased cases predominantly affecting young adults and children.
We are learning that many outbreaks in young people are related to youth sports and extracurricular activities. According to CDC guidance, these activities should be limited.
On Tuesday, Indiana joined the growing list of states lifting mask mandates, but some businesses will keep them in place.
It's the discretion of the management to decide what they want, and we will, like I said, continue to encourage our restaurants and our big box stores and our grocery stores and anyone who owns a business to ask the patrons to wear a mask.
Nearly a third of the U.S. population has received at least one dose of the vaccine, and the CDC says the key to turning the page on the pandemic is everyone getting their shots as soon as possible. Jenna?
All right, Abigail Robertson, thank you. Well, here with us and now CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson. Lori, an AP poll in March found 40% of white Protestant evangelicals likely will not get the vaccine. Why the skepticism?
Well, Jenna, a lot of the skepticism comes through misinformation, that is, even sometimes conspiracy theories that people read online, particularly on social media, especially Facebook. And a lot of this misinformation has been sort of conflated with Christianity. So imagine, here's the scenario. You're a person who is a Christian and you're on Facebook with a lot of your church friends, and they're on Facebook with a lot of their Christian friends, and they're posting things about the vaccine that aren't true. But, you know, it's your friend, you know them, you love them, you trust them, you know they're a good Christian. And so you believe what they posted through their Facebook page, but really they're just passing along something that they saw. The good news in all of this, though, is people who were unsure about whether they were going to get the vaccine, that number is going down a little bit as they see their friends and their neighbors and their loved ones get vaccinated and not have any problems.
Lori, do you think more of these Christians would feel differently if President Trump was still in office?
Well, we know that President Trump has gotten his vaccine, and so did his wife, Melania. And President Trump did come out and say he advises his followers to get the vaccine. And, you know, so many of the Trump followers have said they will do anything he tells them to. And so he's telling them to get a vaccine. We know that a lot of Christian leaders are also trying to influence their followers. Pat Robertson, the CBN founder, he got his vaccine on Friday and encouraged our viewers to do the same thing. We saw that T.D. Jakes, Robert Jeffress, even Franklin Graham has not only said he's gotten his vaccine and encourages other people to do so, but he went one step further and said if vaccines were around in the time of Jesus, Jesus would have recommended it. Franklin Graham said his father, Billy Graham, was a very staunch vaccine proponent and would have gotten a COVID vaccine if he were alive today. Beth Moore also very strongly encourages other people to get vaccinated. So we're seeing a lot of these Christian leaders get vaccinated and encouraging their followers to do the same. And I think that's having a big impact.
Yeah. Lori, how worried are you over the rise of this new double mutant variant of the coronavirus?
Well, I think President Biden was right when he said that vaccines still protect against it. So what we know about the double mutated variant, we see it in San Francisco. It basically has two variants in it. We know that one of them looks very similar to that very concerning South African variant. We know that vaccines do protect against it, just not as robustly as the wild strain of the COVID. And we do know, though, that all of these variants that we're seeing, some of the most concerning ones, like the double mutated one, are more contagious. So again, the answer is to get vaccinated because the vaccines work against the mutations, and the mutations develop when the virus is passed from person to person.
All right, CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson. Thank you very much, Lori.
Thanks for having me.
And coming up, why Congressman Matt Gaetz is refusing to step aside over what he calls false allegations.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Congressman Matt Gaetz is fighting for his political career over scandalous sex allegations that he calls false. The Justice Department, in a probe that began under former President Trump, is investigating whether the Florida Republican gave cash to multiple women recruited online in exchange for sex. The DOJ inquiry is also examining whether Gaetz had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl and violated sex trafficking laws. Writing in the Washington Examiner, Gaetz denied the allegations and said he is, quote, absolutely not resigning. Here with us now is CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody. David, what of these allegations, and can Congressman Gaetz survive them?
Well, there's something there, clearly. We just don't know what the there is specifically. And Jenna, now we wait for the trickle aspect of this. And, it makes me think of the Andrew Cuomo story, right? But with Andrew Cuomo, here's, at least at this point, here's a bit of the difference. Not to mention that he's obviously a governor of New York and dealing with COVID and all that. But there were women that actually came out and alleged certain things against Cuomo from a sexual nature. We have not had one woman come out specifically specifically against Gates at this point. That's what I'm waiting for. Then the trickle could gain some steam. Right now, it's a lot of allegations in a New York Times report. There does seem to be something there, but I think we have to hold judgment for now until we start to hear potentially from some of these women or some more information comes out.
Yeah, not a lot of people coming to his defense in terms of the former president, former Trump allies, so we will wait and see. David, some sad news today as we report the death of Congressman Alcee Hastings after a battle with pancreatic cancer. The Democrat from Florida, he was 84 years old and served in the House for nearly 3 decades. Politically, Hastings' death does narrow the Democratic majority in the House to just 7. David, what does this mean for Democrats?
Well, I mean, it's always been a tight fit for Nancy Pelosi. In other words, she's always had to kind of keep everybody together. And here's the good news for Democrats. Nancy Pelosi is at the helm, and she does a very good job of making sure that indeed all of their folks are together, all the Democrats are together. And so, I don't necessarily see this having too much of an effect, because the bottom line is Nancy Pelosi is still going to have the same issues before and after the passing of Alcee Hastings, which is that she's got to make sure moderates are there and liberals are there, and she's done a pretty good job of trying to fuse the two.
Yeah, David, let's talk about the immigration crisis on the southern border. AP poll that shows President Biden's handling of the crisis on the southern border not very favorable to him. We still have yet to see him or the vice president go down there or even hold a news conference on this issue. David, how long can they stay silent or relatively silent on what is clearly a growing problem?
Well, here's the good news for the Biden administration. The media loves to move on to the next story pretty quickly, and we've already kind of seen that, right? There was this big push on immigration in terms of there was a lot of headlines in the media, and now we're on to Matt Gaetz and a few other things, and Infrastructure Week. And so this is the way the media cycle works, and the Biden White House knows that. So I'm sure they're hoping that the media will start to turn their attention to other issues, because the media gets bored pretty quickly and wants to always have a new headline to talk about. So I think that's part of the strategy. But look, Joe Biden, there's a report out today from the Daily Wire suggesting that Joe Biden may indeed start to build some of that wall in certain gaps. The first thing he did, one of the first things he did, was stop wall construction. Now we understand he might start up some wall construction. So, this is exactly the concern about the Biden administration in the sense that, indeed, they know they've got to get something done. And I think they're looking back at potentially building some of the wall back up. That might help them a little bit.
Yeah, there was a good piece in the New York Times today that talked about that, because, the argument, if he doesn't build the wall, the next president will. All right, David Brody, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, Jenna.
And when we come back, the U.S. wants back into the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. How that's giving Iran new negotiating power.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Israel's president has named Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to form the next government.
I've come to a decision based on the numbers of recommendations, which indicates that MK Benjamin Netanyahu has a slightly higher chance of forming a government. Accordingly, I've decided to entrust him with the task of doing so.
Ironically, Netanyahu's court hearing on corruption charges resumed yesterday. The law allows a prime minister to continue serving even if he's facing charges. Israel's president says he doesn't have much hope Netanyahu will succeed in forming a government, leading to the possibility of a fifth election. Tonight, a new effort is underway as 5 world powers meet in Vienna to bring the U.S. back into the Iran nuclear deal. The meeting of diplomats from Russia, China, Germany, and France and Britain comes as the U.S. restarts indirect talks with Iran over its nuclear program. Iran says it wants all sanctions imposed by the U.S. lifted before the regime will fulfill its promises under the 2015 Iran nuclear agreement. And joining us now is Richard Goldberg, senior advisor at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Richard, it's good to have you with us this evening. Former President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal and imposed severe sanctions on the Iranian regime. Now the U.S. wants back in. Why does it feel like Iran is holding all of the cards here?
Well, it shouldn't. Iran is not holding the cards. Iran's actually a very weak regime that's running out of money. It's probably the weakest point in the regime's history since the Iran-Iraq War during the 1980s. But still, for this Biden administration, they made a campaign pledge to go back into the Iran nuclear deal. To them, politically, whatever Trump did has to be reversed. This is an Obama legacy that must be restored. And also, it's a crisis point. The Iranian regime is enriching uranium beyond the limits that were set out in the nuclear deal. They are taking tankers in the Gulf. They are attacking through their proxies in Yemen, our allies in Saudi Arabia, threatening elsewhere Americans in Iraq. And so for a president who says, I just don't want to have to deal with this, what amount of money can we give them to make this crisis go away rather than confront the regime? That's what you see as a policy, which is let's go to Vienna, let's meet with the Iranians if we can, let's conduct indirect talks with the Europeans, and let's see how much it will cost money-wise to get them to knock it off for a few more years.
Yeah. So what is in it for the U.S.? How does America benefit here?
America does not benefit in the long term. In the short term, you might be able to buy a bit of quiet. The Iranians might agree to downblend a bit of their higher enriched uranium. They may agree to dismantle some of the advanced centrifuges that they have set up to test. But over the long run, what you will do is you will endorse Iranian enrichment on Iranian soil. You will give them the cash to be able to subsidize their terrorism. Again, this is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, their development of missiles and other malign activities. And over time, by endorsing that JCPOA, that Iran nuclear deal, they will have legitimate pathways to nuclear weapons in just a few short years.
Richard, do you think Iran can be trusted?
Cannot be trusted. Iran calls the United States the great Satan and Israel the little Satan. They have pledged the destruction of the only Jewish state on earth. How amazing and ironic it is that the U.S. and the Europeans are meeting with Iran to offer them cash, this leading state sponsor of anti-Semitism that's hell-bent on the destruction and murder of millions more Jews, just one day before Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day. We have to remember this is a regime that has killed hundreds of Americans. They will continue to hunt down and try to kill Americans. And so let's be clear-eyed about who they are. This is not a friend. This is not a potential partner. This is one of the most maniacal regimes on earth. And what we should not be doing is pouring billions of dollars into their coffers.
A final question for you, Richard. The U.S. has also imposed sanctions on Iran over terrorism. Could the U.S. lift any of those sanctions over the nuclear deal?
That's one of the most important questions. Secretary of State Blinken actually testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee earlier this year and said, I commit to you, we will not lift terrorism sanctions on Iran, even if we go back into the nuclear deal. And he specifically mentioned the Central Bank of Iran and the National Iranian Oil Company, which are today subject to terrorism sanctions. According to reports, what's on the table right now in Vienna is to lift those sanctions, in fact, is to give Iran access to all of that terrorism-related cash. It would be a big mistake.
Wow. All right, Richard Goldberg with the FDD, thank you so much. It's great to get your insights this evening.
Thank you.
A big win for the Bears and one of the most dramatic rebounds in college basketball history. Next on Faith Nation.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Finally tonight, the Baylor Bears captured their first national championship in an 86-70 win over Gonzaga last night. But the win represented much more. Baylor coach Scott Drew rebuilt the program after multiple scandals devastated the school's reputation. Coach Drew, who's a Christian, says he's coaching for an audience of one.
University that could be a great representative and a beacon of Christian light and hope to the world. And athletics gives you an opportunity with a lot of exposure, a lot of national attention to do that.
And the team kneeled in prayer and thanked God after the game. Coach Drew said he built the team back up using a culture of joy, which stands for Jesus, others, and lastly, yourself. All right, everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.